deal with, if they're not a lender now, they very well may be. So that's, a call to your banker is certainly a good idea.
Thank you, Patrick. And I think that's been our general reminder to people that hopefully you're in touch with your lenders about any opportunity to delay payments, but also to check in with them to see who the appropriate person is at the bank to talk to about the programs available and if they can assist you. They know you best, so that banking relationship is extremely important right now. We have a question, Dan, I think again, are the forgiven portions going to be taxed, the $10,000 grant or forgiven portion?
Um, Short answer, I don't know, because again, haven't seen the final rules yet. So anything would be kind of speculation on my part. I know there was some mention in the CARES Act about certain things being taxes being waived as taxable income, but I'm not being a tax expert, I can't provide tax advice. And of course, again, the rules have not been finalized yet. So I know it's sometimes folks don't want to hear that, but the fact of the matter is, the legislation says one thing, but it's not final until the agencies issue the regulations. So the IRS would have to issue the regulations on that particular part of the legislation. So I wouldn't be qualified to comment. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Dan, and we'll keep people updated as we do get that information. For the service industry, when you're calculating wages for PPP, do tips reported as part of payroll apply?
To my understanding, yes, and I believe there's going to be additional calculations for that scenario when the final kind of forms and application guidelines come out. So pending to TBD. That's another one, I think.
All right. And again, we'll keep that information coming as it becomes available. A question for confirmation. Just to confirm with the EIDL, if you decide not to take the loan on account of not needing it or some other reason, the advance then becomes a grant. There has been a bit of confusion around whether it becomes a grant only if they are denied.
So it will be forgivable whether you accept it, whether you declined, whether you declined yourself the loan. That's the language I've seen. So in fact, I think we sent out something similar to anybody that via email to anybody that perhaps applied for an EIDL loan prior to Monday. We sent out a notification saying, hey, here's how these idle advances for those of you who already applied will work. And for those of you on the call that have already applied prior to Monday, okay, the guidance is to go back into the new application form and go through it again so you can make that idle advance request and benefit from that advance/grant. So I don't have the official language, but this is what I've seen that have come out, and that's my understanding of it right now.
All right. And all your information is readily available on SBA.gov. Is that right? As it becomes available?
Yes, most of it is available. I'm providing some interpretation on my part as things come on the website, or at least clarifying it, because I think we all know sometimes with our federal programs, it's not always clear when you're looking at stuff on our website. So, but yes, they are adding that official, they want to wait until we have the official rules in place before they post on our website sometimes. But that will be added as we kind of move through this over the coming days. And if it's not there and you have a question, you can always reach out to our office if you have questions about this stuff.
All right. And we talked about the SBA, local SBA lenders offering support with PPP. Are they also going to be able to offer EIDL?
No, that's a separate, the EIDL loan is an entirely different process. It's a direct loan from SBA. So the only way to apply for that is through our website, sba.gov/disaster.
All right. Is there any written guidance that can be shared regarding the documentation needed for the 10K idle loan to grant conversion?
So if you, not specifically with respect to the $10,000 advance, but the documentation you need is the same as you would need for the normal loan application, right? So the normal idle loan business application is still part of the process, okay? So as you go through the new portal that launched Monday, it's fairly straightforward. I've gotten some positive feedback from folks that have gone through this new form. You know, if you dig down deep into our website, you can find the old form still. You know, you got to click about four or five different links to get to it. That stuff's still available, and the information that I've sent out that some of our partners have, like SBDC, you know, those forms, they still exist somewhere. You know, that's what these electronic portals are based on, and they can be used as a just kind of general guidelines on the type of questions that the electronic form is going to ask you for. But generally, you know, who owns the company, tax returns, you know, those types of things that you may be familiar with from a business for any type of business loan you've applied for in the past. But again, the advance / grant, you know, is not dependent on anything other than you submitting your application completely, as I understand it, and completing that form. So.
All right, and you mentioned taxes due 2019 completed taxes need to be included?
If they're available. If not, then you would base it on 2018.
All right. Someone's asking if you can elaborate on payroll and eligible benefits with regards to the PPP program. And also said the bill provides for a limited amount. Is there a risk of running out of funds?
So I guess I'll address the first question first in terms of the eligible expenses. And there are some limits, you know, in terms of owner salary or individuals that make more than $100,000. There's some limits, you know, based on that, those types of criteria. Again, haven't seen the final rules yet. So, or, you know, the little calculation cheat sheet. So I wouldn't want to get too deep into the calculations for this yet. But my understanding is that, you know, that is inclusive of benefits, paid sick leave, things of that nature. Okay. And then in addition, rent, utilities, and or mortgage interest is all, those are all eligible for both to be used for the use of proceeds, as well as to be forgiven, depending on what the ultimate employee count is. Oh, there was a part 2, wasn't there? What was the part 2, Brooke?
Can the funds run out? Like, should people hurry up and get
Yeah.
those in?
I mean, so I can't speak for Congress, but I don't think that's likely at all. I don't think that's likely, and you'll hear about it before they run out. That's for sure. So they put, I don't know, a lot of money in SBA's account at Treasury. Yes.
All right, still good to get it in, because the quicker you'll get your money too.
Exactly.
Just a clarification on full-time equivalent. Is it based on an hourly amount, or how is a full-time equivalent employee counted?
So this is where I'm speculating, and I'm not sure if Michelle on their programs, they had an FTE, but typically when you're calculating FTEs, it's going to be the total hours of all employees, you know, that you've actually paid, and then you divide it by 40 to figure out what your full-time equivalent number of employees is. But again, I haven't seen the, you know, as it applies to PPP, the calculations, I haven't seen them yet. So, but I'm going to assume they're going to be something similar to that.
So around that 40-hour a
I
week mark.
I would
Okay.
expect that to be accurate.
And there was a follow-up question about whether or not contractors are included in the PPP. I think, as we mentioned before, with hairdressers, any contractors would be eligible, but they would apply individually because they are their own business, correct? They wouldn't.
Well, yeah. So that might be my kind of intuitive understanding of that. I think it's compounded by the fact that some of these contractors and self-employed individuals will also be eligible for unemployment. So, which I am not qualified to speak about. But if there's going to be a distinction there, I would expect that to be the case. But again, you know, if when the final rules are published, and this is something that's very different from what I'm speculating on here, then it's something we'll highlight in our communications to, you know, our partners and to business.
Idle covers, is it February to June? Is it March to June? What is the time frame?
So idle starts from the period from which you are for your economic injury for idle is, I believe it was January 31st. I'd have to look it up. It's on the disaster declaration itself, and you are eligible to make an idle loan application for 1 year from the disaster declaration. So I think that answers the question, but that's what we're talking about for idle. If you're talking about PPP, if that's maybe a follow-up question, I'm not sure when the clock starts in the 8 weeks. It's an excellent question that I have indeed asked. I'm going to assume that it's from when funds are dispersed, but I may have seen some information out there that it may extend to further back in the disaster for employers that, for example, have managed to retain employees through this process. But that's definitely going to be one of those subject to our final rulemaking determinations.
All right, thank you. And Dan, I don't know how much time you have. We have a lot. We have 21 questions still, so I can also pull these and we can put them into a Q&A and see what we can have answered there as well.
I can maybe if you I've got time, if you like, I can scroll through the group chat here and just kind of answer some of them based on how many similar questions I've been getting. If you'd like me to do that.
Sure, if you wanna do that.
Foreign ownership for SBA programs, you know, particularly U.S. subsidiaries of Canadian companies. The answer is it does depend on the entity's of eligibility otherwise. So if we're talking about idle and inclusive of the parent entity, if they're still considered a small business concern, they may be eligible for the idle program. Okay, so you know, if that Canadian, you know, owner was a $3 billion company, well, they wouldn't be eligible necessarily. Okay, that probably wouldn't make very much sense, right? But if in total the affiliated entities were still considered a small business, and the beneficiary of the economic injury loan was substantially, you know, the U.S. operations of that entity, right, paying U.S. employees, U.S. taxes, then it would be certainly eligible to apply and possibly would be eligible to benefit from idle. PPP, I hate to do the cop out. I'm not sure yet when it comes to what the rules are going to be for non-U.S. ownership. That's since it falls under our normal loan guarantee program, typically the answer would be no. U.S. operations that were majority owned by foreign entities would not be eligible. We have a requirement of 51% U.S. citizenship or legal permanent residence. That's another thing to keep in mind, legal permanent residence. If the Canadian citizen is a legal permanent resident of the U.S. operating the company here, then it would be okay. But for the more complex scenarios, that does remain to be seen. Farms are not eligible for the EIDL program, okay? that is something that I haven't seen any changes due from the CARES Act. Farmers can benefit from, farm service agencies, low interest, flexible term loans. So I kind of recommend farmers talk with their local county office, with the farm service agency. The PPP program, I think they might be. Again, I haven't seen the final language, but farmers and other ag-related businesses that derive a majority of their revenues from their farm operations, certainly some of those entities have been able to benefit from our guaranteed loan programs in the past. And I didn't see anything that would preclude them from benefiting from PPP. So I'm going to put a maybe / probably. And of course, once we get the final guidelines, we'll blast that out to everyone and their cousins and everybody else. New businesses, seasonal businesses, that's all valid and relevant. And in terms of making the loan applications, you just need to speak to your circumstances that are different from that regular monthly operations type of business. Okay. You're not disqualified from these loans if you have money in the bank. If you have a lot of money in the bank, the EIDL loan might not be something you'd get approved for. You would be considered to have credit elsewhere if you were personally wealthy and had tons of personal liquidity or business liquidity that would get you through this next 6 months of operating expenses for the EIDL program. There does not appear to be any limitations to that for PPP.
Dan, can I pause you for a second? I realized
Sure.
that I got some private messages coming in here too that you wouldn't be able to see. And I think this one is good and might hit several of our members for sure. The PPP guidelines state you can only apply one time per applicant. If an individual owns multiple businesses, which we have a lot here, is it the business that counts as an applicant or the individual themselves? So can all the businesses under the company apply?
Yeah, so great question. It seems that this would be kind of an underwriting type of question. I haven't seen the final rules yet, but typically, we would look at the entire operations, right, for framing the request. If those entities were sufficiently separable, okay, that would achieve the same type of outcome, if that makes sense. It would still be limited to our total, the $10 million cap for that business and all their affiliated entities. Okay. Affiliation rules still apply to our SBA loans, except for a couple of circumstances. Franchises that have multiple locations, hospitality related businesses cannot make application on a per location basis if they have fewer than 500 employees per location. Those are a couple of exceptions to our normal affiliation rules. So I don't want to get into too much detail, but I think that answers the broad scope of the question, pending final guidelines.
Thank you.
So landlords are eligible for EIDL and PPP. So kind of similar to the salon question, landlords are eligible to apply. If they're not getting paid, they're getting injured, right? And if they have employees for the say the management company, for example, for the landlord operation, they would have something to apply for PPP. So sole proprietors are included, again, with the PPP. I haven't seen the details on how they calculate that self-employment income, whether it's via salary or draws. It's probably going to be some sort of reasonable method for determining what their income should be, but it does remain to be seen. I don't know about specific credit determinations for the PPP loan. I don't think they're going to be very um, I don't know what the term is, but I don't think it's a major concern. They're more concerned that are these real businesses, right? And do they really have employees? That seems to be the primary intent of this PPP program. The fact that, you know, specifically for the PPP, no personal guarantees are required for the businesses, I think kind of indicates that credit is not a primary concern for this program. They're more worried about fraud, I think, than anything. So once folks do complete the EIDL application under the new process, they just need to wait for a loan officer from SBA to reach out and with
shit.
additional documentation if they need it.
Boston Spring Invite moved to May 29th, same weekend as the other one.
I don't think that was a question.
Sorry, I muted that.
I think I kind of ran through all the stuff I could see in the group chat. Great questions, folks. You know, I know a lot of it was wait and see, pending, but you know, bear with us. I mean, that's all we can ask right now is bear with us and go apply for EIDL right now, right? Because you can do that right now.
And EIDL's the one that you're going to go to sba.gov to get that information. Is that the best way, Dan? That's one that's not being managed by local lenders.
Correct. Correct.
All right.
Yep. And if you guys need help with, you know, certainly, you know, the financials, Dale will be happy to help.
Thanks, Steve.
Are there any other comments or questions from Patrick, Michelle, Dale, thoughts that came up during the conversation or ways that your programs can assist with any of the questions that were asked?
Brooke, a couple things. One, I would just say that if anybody has questions about this or any of our programs, they can go to any one of us. There is a lot of coordination going on right now. Obviously, we're not going to be able to answer technical questions about the specific SBA programs, but we'll work through it with you. We can work with Dale. So if you have a question about anything that anybody has to offer right now, you're not going to get misdirected if you ask any one of us. We'll work together and try and figure out the best way to help somebody. I want to close with a few quick thank yous. I want to thank Brooke and the Chamber for having us on the call and for putting this together. Michelle, Dale, and Dan for presenting. Everybody, I'm sure you're aware, Dan has a huge territory, so I really appreciate you spending an hour with us this morning, Dan. I know you've got a lot of inquiries and a lot of activity going on right now. I have some of my staff members on the phone who have been doing a tremendous job trying to get out in front of people and contacting people. And I also want to thank the employers, the business community, the members on the call. We have had universal positive and appreciative response from everybody we've contacted. And I know how stressful this is. We know how upsetting and concerned and scared the business owners are and the employer community. And with every interaction we've had, people have been gracious, they've been appreciative, they understand when we don't have the answers. It's been, you know, a very positive interactions and experience in what is a very negative, scary, unknown time. So certainly I want to make sure that anybody on the call who represents that group, we really appreciate your welcomeness, your welcoming of our contacts and the graciousness and flexibility you're showing us. So thank you. And that's it.
Anything else from Michelle or Dale? And I certainly echo everything that Patrick said, and do not hesitate to get in touch with any of us. I'll make sure that our COVID site has all the contact information as well at visit stlc.com/COVID-19. Anything else from Dale or Michelle? They can go to the IDA website for the local loan opportunity as well. And we'll get the list of SBA lenders up on our site. And I'll also pull all of these questions and we can work them into a Q&A that we can try to get completed and posted as well. I appreciate all of your questions today.
Yeah, Brooke, I'd just like to add, Michelle and Jen in our office are willing and able to help with the SBA applications. We can help people get prepared to apply for the NCA or any of the loan programs out there. And I know today's focus has been on the financing, but our advisors are also able to help with some of the other changes that are going on, you know, with the labor programs, paid family leave, any of those sort of things we can help try and navigate as well.
Great. And can you just repeat the best way to get in touch with the Small Business Development Center?
Yep, they can either call our main line at 386-7312, or if they want to go to our statewide website, nyssbdc.org, and just click make an appointment. That'll get us all the information and we'll be able to follow up with them.
Great. Thanks, Dale. Anything else, Michelle?
No. If you want, you can share my contact information on your website as well for the North Country Alliance, or Matt Sivers as well. We'd be happy to do that.
All right, great. Well, I really thank all of our panelists today for being here and sharing this very valuable information. We had about 80 people on the call today, so we certainly will continue to offer information as it becomes available, and there's a lot to know. So between reading and hearing from people working in the field, as well as just really encouraging you to get in touch with your lenders, to get in touch with the IDA, DANK, the SBDC, and the Chamber. We're all here to help you as much as we can to get through this and utilize the programs and opportunities that are available. So again, this is Brooke Rouse from the St. Lawrence County Chamber. We're closing up now. The program has been recorded. Today is April 1st, 2020. And as we know, information is changing frequently. But as of today, we will post this information for you to share and review. Thank you again. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. Bye-bye.